afternoon everyone, and thanks for joining us for the third edition of Griffith Uni News for 2012. I'm Ruben and I'll be your host today. But first, let me introduce you to my amazing co-stars. On my right side are Stephanie and Lisa, and on my left we have Courtney and Desma. How's it going today, guys?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, really good, thanks.
That's great. So today we'll be discussing the most recent and hottest topics affecting us. But first, let's cross to Kat with the latest news headlines.
Thanks, Ruben. 7 helicopters are today scouring a rugged area of bushland north of Brisbane for a missing vintage plane, its pilot and 5 passengers. The search resumed this morning after the 1934 Dragon biplane disappeared yesterday afternoon, flying from an air show near Bundaberg to Caboolture. Broadcaster Alan Jones says he is astounded at the hatred and anger dished out at him over comments he made about the Prime Minister's father. The fallout over his controversial comment that Julia Gillard's father died of shame has intensified, with more sponsors pulling ads, his top-rating radio show being axed by several regional radio stations, and the talkback host being dumped from speaking at an anti-coal seam gas rally. And the Great Barrier Reef has lost half its coral in the past 27 years. The devastation caused by a deadly combination of crown of thorns starfish, storm damage and coral bleaching. The reef's plight has been revealed in a $50 million monitoring program, which has seen Australian Institute of Marine Science researchers spend more than 2,700 days at sea since 1985. And finally, Qantas will have to pay the tax office $34 million in GST it collected from passengers who booked tickets but then didn't turn up for their flights. In a landmark ruling on Tuesday, the court determined Qantas had still provided a service to those customers and therefore owed the Australian Tax Office the outstanding GST. Back to you guys on the desk.
Thanks for that, Kat. New issues have recently arisen concerning the trial of 41-year-old Adrian Bailey, who has been charged with allegedly murdering ABC journalist Jill Meagher. Police are now asking social media hate sites to be closed down, fearing they will jeopardise his chance of a fair trial after threats arose recently on Facebook, saying we need to hang Bailey. While the media are mostly careful with the way they report court issues, social media sites have no boundaries, it seems. So what do you guys think about this? Should social media sites be held responsible for censoring this kind of thing?
I think the Victorian Police have a really good point. I think that the abuse that we're seeing online could actually end up working against the family who's trying to seek justice. I heard earlier on the news today that they were saying that the defence teams will be able to argue that he didn't actually receive a fair trial, and actually it'll let him get off easier, or the case could be dragged out for a really long time, which is obviously distressing for the family.
Well, I think on that same note, I mean, you have to think about, do people have the right to express these sort of things on Facebook?
Yeah.
You know, freedom of speech, or do we need stronger legislation to work out, you know, what we're going to do, like with Privacy Act, or, you know, it's quite hard, I think.
Yeah, well, there's also the controversial issue about whether he even really deserves to have these sites taken down, because I know that a lot of people, especially for those families who have first-hand dealt with rape or murder or things like that, would want all the repercussions they could get for someone like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also on another note, you know, the general media can be easily held in contempt for this kind of thing, you know, contempt of court it's called, I believe. And Facebook is yet to have any kind of regulations which, you know, say this is what you can and can't do as far as, you know, contempt of court goes.
What
so I think
with freedom of speech, and I mean, I have to agree with Steph on that one. If he can rape and kill someone, surely we can name and shame that person.
Yeah.
But I mean, can we name and shame someone when he hasn't been convicted yet? You know, I think it comes down to that issue as well.
And I think it's respect for the families as well. They've sort of asked for everyone just to stay quiet during this, you know, important time where it's before the court. You know, you don't want to jeopardise the family trying to seek justice. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for that, guys. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back with more shortly.
Being the managing director of an events management business and working with clients like Lady Gaga and Guns N' Roses isn't all rock and roll. There's serious decisions that need to be made. I've got to know what I'm doing. first place I learnt the power of knowledge was Griffith University. Griffith taught me how to apply what I know to the big picture and the big issues. I know how to find ways to keep the show on the road. Well, guess my job is a bit rock and roll then, isn't it? Griffith University. When you know more, you can do more.
And we're back. Thanks for staying tuned to Griffith Uni News. On another note, there have also been more reports of bus drivers being attacked by young people on the Gold Coast. According to sources, there have been 3 bus attacks in 4 days, with Surfside buses releasing footage showing a gang of 30 teenage boys emerging from darkness at around 11:30 p.m. and pelting the vehicle with rocks. So what do you guys think we need to do about this? Do you think we need a permanent police or security presence on the buses at night?
Well, it seems by the time the police get to the scene, the offenders have already, taken off on foot or, on bike, and they can't be found. So it raises the question, should we have stronger policing systems in place for our bus lines in particular?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Steph. I think, because I've been at some of these bus stops when some of these attacks have happened, and it's scary, and it's almost as if the police or authorities are waiting for something really bad to happen, like someone get killed or injured before they take action, but action needs to be taken straight away.
It does, yeah.
But I mean, what really is the solution? I mean, do we put security cameras there? Do we get police to stand there?
Yeah, I think,
Can we get it patrolled maybe with security guards? I don't really know a solution for it.
Well, surely it's the parents' responsibility. I want to know where their parents are. They're out at 11:30 at night.
Yeah. Some of the blame should be put on the parents.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, on another note similar to that one, I think why are the kids doing this in the first place? You got to ask the question. I mean, they're walking around with bats and bars and that kind of thing, and throwing rocks for no given reason. Like, obviously they must be bored or something like that.
Boredom, maybe unhappiness at school, or I think it's hard to determine, but the statistics have shown that it's happening a lot more.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, guys. Now let's see what's been happening in sport. Justin has the headlines.
It was a massive weekend for sports around Australia, with both the AFL and NRL grand finals. In the AFL, Sydney Swans defeated Hawks 14-7-91 to 11-5-81 for a thrilling final that saw Sydney come back twice from behind to win. Sydney hasn't secured a grand final since 2005, but a nail-biting finish saw Nick Maselski kick the winning goal to take a 10-point lead with seconds to go. Not everyone was happy on the day, however, with one punter placing a $160,000 bet on the Hawks to win. In the other grand final, Storm finally won themselves a righteous place in history with their destroying of the Bulldogs over the weekend. The final finished up Storm 14, Bulldogs 4, in what was a disappointing display from the Dogs in front of the 82,000 plus crowd. Billy Slater was a definite standout throughout the game and showed great responsibility when he led a try through and only minutes later scored his own. Cooper Cronk was another standout through the game, and he eventually went on to win the Clive Churchill medal. It wasn't all pretty though, with Bulldogs player James Graham being put on report after his alleged biting of Melbourne Storm player Billy Slater. Melbourne, a team who had won 2 premierships but stripped from them for salary cap scandals, can now celebrate with a dominant victory and can be named one of the best sides in NRL history. In other sports, there is speculation around the code swapping of Quade Cooper. The Australian rugby union player has sparked interest this week by not ruling out a stint in the NRL. He's even gone as far to label Australian rugby as having a toxic environment. The Roosters are hot favourites for his signature, with a package deal involving Sonny Bill Williams being rumoured. Cooper had knee surgery this week and is looking to fully recover soon. And in final news, football fans can rejoice as the new A-League season is just around the corner. With new signings to the like of Del Piero and Emile Heskey, it should be an interesting season with many twists and turns. The season's kick-off is on the 5th of October with Melbourne Victory taking on Melbourne Heart at Etihad Stadium. That's all for today, guys. I'm Justin Powell, and back to you on the studio.
Thanks for that, Justin. As Justin mentioned, it has been a massive week for sports fans, with the Melbourne Storms and Sydney Swans winning the NRL and AFL grand finals in the football. But perhaps one of the more controversial stories to come out of these grand final games has been the claim that Bulldogs prop James Graham bit Storm fullback Billy Slater on the ear during a mid-game altercation. Let's take a look at the video of that. You can see he's biting him, clearly biting him.
Right in there. Yeah.
They cannot say that's not. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Should James Graham be rubbed out for biting Billy Slater like that?
I think banned for life, yeah. I mean, you can't just bite someone like that. He's being tried in NRL court. If you walked up to someone in the middle of the street and bit them, you would be charged for assault.
Yeah.
You can't get away with that. It's unacceptable.
But is this the new way of fighting now? You know, go around, you know, biting people, not fisticuffs anymore. Just, you know, go
like
down and
girl
bite someone on the ear.
Yeah. I don't know, is it me being sexist, or is that like does that seem like a really feminine thing to do? Sort of like, you know,
definitely.
pulling hair, biting each other, and I don't know, it just
Something
seems
safe
a
for the netball court.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you guys, but is James Graham maybe a vampire? Like, he looks like he hasn't seen too much sunlight, so
Could be.
it's quite
could be.
possible.
Maybe he's going for the neck.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question from the whole weekend that's come out is which is the better sport, AFL or NRL?
AFL for sure.
Well, we're in Queensland here, Lisa,
Well, I
so
definitely
you
go
might.
NRL.
No, AFL. AFL, definitely. We've got the Gold Coast Suns.
no
We've got
biting girls.
We've got a couple of Victorians on the panel, obviously.
Each to their own.
All right, well, thanks for that, guys. Let's cut to a quick ad break. Don't go anywhere, more news and entertainment right after the break.
What I've learned about myself and about my sport is the reason why I won gold at the Athens Olympics. And the first place I learned the power of knowledge was through my Griffith Sports Scholarship. Today, my knowledge is why athletes come to me for coaching, and it's why I'm commentator at the SBS National Road Series. It's safe to say that what I know, and a bit of hard work, have always kept me in front. Griffith University, when you know more, you can do more.
Thanks for updating us with today's news, Rebecca. So now we're just going to cross to Madeline, and she's going to give us the latest in weather.
Thanks, Ruben. Well, it started off another cloudy day here on the Gold Coast with chances of a light shower or two with light to moderate southeasterly winds. The clouds are set to part this afternoon and we have blue skies to look forward to. Temperatures are warming up for the rest of the week with fine and mostly sunny days ahead, hoping to reach tops of 30 degrees over the weekend. Currently on the beach, it's 24 degrees. Thanks, guys. Back to you.
Okay, thanks for that, Madeline. Let's now cross to the hottest news with Rebecca.
Thanks, guys. There's still no trace of a vintage plane missing north of Brisbane with 6 people on board. Pilot Des Porter and his wife Kath were flying with 2 other couples when their ruby red DH-84 Dragon set off its emergency beacon in low cloud near the Sunshine Coast hinterland yesterday afternoon. The plane had taken off from an air show in the town of Monto, bound for its home base at Caboolture. Rescuers say difficult terrain and weather conditions had hampered efforts, but conditions should improve throughout the day. At least 36 people have been killed and dozens injured in a boat collision in Hong Kong. More than 120 passengers and crew were on the boat, which was on its way to watch a fireworks display when it collided with another boat and sank. Over 100 people were taken to hospital, 9 with serious and critical injuries. Authorities are working to see if any Australians were among those on board. Economists are finding it difficult to judge whether the Reserve Bank will slash interest rates this afternoon. Some experts have recommended that the Reserve Bank leave the cash rate untouched. However, concerns about slowing retail sales and another low inflation reading are leaving many in support for another rate cut. Hyundai and Honda are the latest companies to pull their support from Alan Jones's radio program following his comments about the Prime Minister's father. A total of 15 companies have now ditched his show in the wake of his controversial comments that Julia Gillard's father died of shame because of what Jones said were her lies. Jones returned to the airwaves this morning where he offered another apology to both the PM and his listeners, telling them that he was wrong to make the comments. Those are the latest news headlines. It's now back over to you guys on the panel.
Thanks for that, Rebecca. Well, that's about all we've got time for today. So thanks for a great show today, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
no
thank
worries.
you.
You're welcome. And if you guys missed an episode of our show, then don't forget to tune in to our YouTube channel at allthews.youtube.com/user/broadcast Griffith. And I couldn't see the last part of the auto cue.
I'm going to beat her down.